Is it going?
Yeah.
Oh,
hi, we're back.
Hello. We have been enjoying our summer.
Yeah, so we're a little off, but lots of things to talk about. Where do you want to start with your summer?
My summer, we've been busy. I'm looking forward to next week going towards Kansas and celebrating my birthday and our mom's birthday.
Yes.
And seeing a new Jayhawk into her dorms.
Yay,
That'll be fun.
Jayhawk.
Yay.
It'll be good.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, busy with travel. Went to Michigan with the family. My husband's side of the family, so that was wonderful. Michigan go. And then, went to Montreal with my old friends. We're all 50, and so we went and celebrated 50 in Montreal. And I need to go back. Montreal is wonderful. So I've never been.
Yeah. It looks wonderful.
It's good.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, who do we have today? Today we have Edie.
Yay. And Edie
Rasmussen.
Yay. Yes. Yeah. I'm really good at remembering first names, but not last names. So we have Edie Rasmussen. She'll fix that for me. Who is a licensed professional therapist. And we'll get to talk to her today about healing and how she helps others heal.
Sounds good. Come on in.
Come on in,
Edie.
Yay. You get the middle seat.
Yeah. Join us on our poops.
Yes, our poops.
Oh, your water.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Now it's you.
It's water.
Go. So welcome, Edie.
Thank you for having me.
We are happy to have you. So a little bit of just what you've shared with us is you like to work with clients who have late diagnosis ADHD, right? And you like to work with them through career things, and you also like to work with chronic pain, working through some of that, but also people pleasing is kind of a big piece of the clients that you like to work with. So just jumping in, tell us a little bit about your practice and tell us a little bit about what you love about your work.
Well, I've been in private practice since 2019. I started my private practice right before the pandemic, so convenient. Yes. I started out working with anxiety, really focusing on anxiety and chronic health issues. But after being in private practice for a few years, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and then I realized that I had already been working with a lot of women with the symptoms. And this was before everyone started talking about women and ADHD. Right. So about the time I was diagnosed and realized that I had already been working with a lot of those clients, that's when the media really started talking about women and ADHD, and it kind of transformed my practice. Sure. And I started working almost exclusively with women who were either dealing with a late ADHD diagnosis, thought they might have ADHD, or they had had a diagnosis when they were young, but their ADHD hadn't really been treated. Sure. And so that's what I've been doing mostly.
Did you find, it seems to me there's a big connection with anxiety and ADHD.
Yeah, what I'm finding with clients and what I've experienced myself is that anxiety and depression and also things like OCD can be part of ADHD. Those things often co-occur. And the other thing that I think is really important to mention is that trauma is almost always part of that equation as well, because being neurodivergent in a society that's been set up for neurotypicals causes trauma. So there's a lot of shame and confusion and adverse life experiences and trauma that my clients bring to therapy that is directly related to them being neurodivergent.
Sure. So tell me more about that, just when you say trauma, in being a neurotypical world, being neurodivergent, like what are maybe some examples of trauma? Because you know how when people think of trauma, they might think of something different than how it would show up.
So neurodivergent kids are much more likely to be bullied. So almost every neurodivergent woman I see in my practice has had experiences with being bullied. Mm-hmm. Some, depending on what the issues are, with someone's neurodivergence, with their children, they're more likely to be yelled at by teachers and parents.
Yes.
Because adults in their life don't necessarily understand their symptoms and they're not diagnosed, and so yelling, and in extreme cases, physical abuse, because they don't have the tools to deal with that child's sufferings.
And if they were late diagnosed too, they don't know, right, that their children are struggling at that time.
And one more thing is that, especially for neurodivergent women, they're much more likely to be in abusive relationships as teenagers and adults with romantic partners.
How so? Like, what?
What does that matter? Low self-esteem is almost always part of ADHD, and low self-esteem can lead to choosing partners who aren't the best partners for us.
Yeah. I'm learning a lot, like, just about myself. I'm listening to you talk, and as a woman who was late diagnosed ADHD, and I'm starting to reflect on my adolescence and childhood and go, oh, okay, that's why, or that gives me more understanding. And just listening to you talk about the trauma piece, I'm like, oh yeah, I was in an abusive relationship my freshman year in high school, and so you're hitting on a lot of things that I can relate to. So
sure, and women with ADHD are often highly sensitive and they're very, very kind, and there can be some naivete associated with that, and so those girls or women may let people into their lives that maybe they shouldn't, or maybe they don't have great boundaries in that way.
Oh, so you're doing some good work there.
Thank you.
And so, do you have any special techniques or skills that you use to help your clients?
Well, I use a lot of EMDR therapy. That's what I spend, I'd say, most of my time doing with clients.
And remind me, what does EMDR stand for?
It stands for Eye Movement Desensitization Reprocessing. And it's a specific kind of therapy that was developed for trauma. But really, it could be used for just about any problem that someone brings to therapy. And it uses something called bilateral stimulation, which helps your brain make new connections that it hasn't been able to make before. And bilateral stimulation is simply, like, if you've ever taken a walk, you've done bilateral stimulation.
Oh, okay.
It just means back and forth, right?
Okay.
So when you're doing EMDR therapy, you're either going to be doing eye movements or you're going to be doing some kind of tapping.
Okay. Do you have, I know some people use tappers or they use different things that you hold, or sometimes there's other tools involved too. You don't need that, sometimes it can just be.
Yeah, I don't use any of those, and in my training they said you don't need those, you can use them if you want, but they're not necessary.
What does the bilateral do?
The bilateral stimulation somehow frees your brain up to make new connections. So if you've ever taken a walk to clear your mind,
yes,
and you had that feeling that you were able to solve a problem after you took that walk, or you were able to get some clarity on something after you took that walk, that bilateral stimulation is probably what's helping with that.
Oh, interesting.
That is cool.
Because of the what is happening with that bilateral movement? Like, there's neuron connections that are happening, or like synapse, what's happening?
Possibly helping the brain create new neural pathways.
Okay.
So what happens when we are triggered by something that is related to trauma is that your brain is making a mistake.
Okay.
So if you get anxious every time your boss calls you into your office, right? And you get this overwhelming anxiety, like bordering on panic, your brain is making a mistake, because that's obviously not necessarily a situation that you should become that anxious about.
Sure.
And so EMDR is really good at finding what's at the root of that issue and helping your brain make new connections so that you're no longer triggered by that situation. Creating those new neural pathways.
Yes. Okay. So that makes sense. And thinking from an OCD standpoint, right? When we have those first experiences of panic or trauma and that certain situation, right, then triggers ongoing ones, your brain is kind of creating this habit, or this automatic response. And so then that EMDR and that bilateral helps to change that.
Yes.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I am really committed to helping my clients have a team of providers that can help them through through that ADHD journey, and I think this is just incredibly important. So I want them to have a primary care physician that they trust, that they feel comfortable with, that understands ADHD and trauma. I want them to have a psychiatric provider that understands how ADHD presents in women, who can manage their medication. And then a lot of people don't realize that occupational therapy is available to adults with ADHD.
Wow.
If you're struggling with things like procrastination, completing tasks, social things, organization, you can see an occupational therapist to help you with those things. So having that team of people, and your mental health provider, that's also really important. Having that team, in your corner can be so helpful.
Yes. Because, it can be really overwhelming to think of all the things, right? Because I think, some women, they respond with ADHD and this to-do list that is overwhelming, and this idea that they have to do it right then,
but they can't prioritize it.
Right. And then thinking they have to do it kind of all on their own, because if they ask for help, that connects to maybe that shame or embarrassment. And so it's good that you can help facilitate that and support that, so that they know they're not alone and they don't have to do it all alone.
Yes. And I even say that on my website. You don't have to do this alone. You're not alone in this.
Right.
You can have a team of people helping you do this.
Yeah. Yes. Good. Yeah. Do you have?
Well, it sounds like you probably have a list of a bunch of providers that you rely on, that you kind of can see who would fit where and offer referrals. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I really love connecting clients with other providers.
That's great. And then the chronic pain piece, do you use the EMDR to help you work with clients who have chronic pain?
Chronic medical issues.
Which issues.
Including chronic pain. EMDR, there's some really exciting work and talk in that research community about chronic medical issues. So there's an emotional component to every medical issue, and EMDR is really good at addressing that emotional piece. And so it doesn't mean that EMDR is going to cure your medical issue, but it can reduce your symptoms. It absolutely can. It's being used to treat things like long haul COVID. And considering how much anxiety is involved in breathing issues, that makes a lot of sense. It's being used to treat chronic pain. So that's a very exciting area.
And I think too, just it talks to the connection of emotional well-being, mental health, and our body, right? And so if we are anxious about our medical struggles, we're going to be tighter, right? And maybe not sleep as well, or and so to be able to release that can help.
Yes,
that makes sense.
And EMDR is really good at getting at that somatic piece, those physical symptoms that are related to that trauma.
When you think about healing, and you think about your clients and seeing them heal, like, what do you notice that feels the most impactful for you when you see your clients going through this process?
Well, when most clients come to me, they are overwhelmed, tearful. They're feeling a lot of shame because they feel like they can't function the way that they want to. They typically haven't been sleeping well and haven't been practicing good self-care, which can also be an issue with ADHD.
Yeah.
And so after, a few sessions, or we'll say, I don't know what number, 6 to 8 sessions, something like that, I begin to see a change in their face, their affect. They are feeling better. They are not overwhelmed. They're coping better. They have a plan. And then with EMDR, it's really exciting to watch a client work through a traumatic memory and get to the end of that process. And one of my clients joked one time. She said, "This is like an exorcism." Trauma is literally leaving your body. And as a therapist, you parts of the process in EMDR is this body scan to address any somatic symptoms. And when you see those physical sensations in a client's body, that's very, very powerful. And clients are amazed. They are amazed that, when they start that process, they have tightness in their chest or pain. And then by the time we're finished, they're like,
wow. Well, I'm excited. I just signed up for an EMDR course because we've talked before. You talked about how impactful it is. I'm like, I'm gonna, pull that into my skill set. So that's good. I'm really enjoying it. And so then, when do you introduce the EMDR? Is that
so? I spent a couple of sessions just getting history and building that rapport. I want that client to feel really comfortable with me and safe with me because, EMDR is really effective, but it's hard work. And it can be very emotional work, and so you want the client to feel very comfortable and very safe before you start that. And then there's some preliminary work that takes place to sort of set the client up for being able to cope in between sessions if any overwhelming feelings come up in between sessions, which I don't have a lot of clients that report that. In EMDR, you make sure they have some tools to deal with that when it does happen before you get started.
which I think again they'll just utilize throughout their life to have those skills. So it's not like just a one-off of I'll use this just in between us to incorporate into their life.
Does it feel like this work has a trajectory of there's a space where it feels kind of clear that we've accomplished what we need to accomplish and
becoming trained in EMDR also transformed my practice. It completely changed it because before I was doing talk therapy and talk therapy is also very valuable, very important. And I do a combination of talk therapy and EMDR. But before, when I was just doing talk therapy, I would have some clients for years, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. But when I started doing EMDR, I realized that clients were going to get better so much faster. It's so fast, and it's so effective, and it's lasting. So now that therapy journey for my clients is much shorter, and if they want to process all of their trauma, which they don't have to do that all at once, they can take breaks, come back. Some people are like, I need a break from this, and that's fine. But some clients want to process all of their trauma, and so that's what that ending the therapy process looks like. Is they have processed all of their trauma. They're good, and they're ready to move forward on their own, and they can come back if they need me, or they might set up maintenance sessions, every month, once a month, once every 2 months.
Yes, I had a question, and it has gone. I don't know where it went.
Well, I'll just say one thing about wellness.
Yes,
that's a big part of my practice. Health psychology is something that I was trained in. I did my internship at the Oklahoma Heart Hospital. So wellness and health psychology have always been really important to me. And with women who have ADHD, that self-care piece can sometimes be a struggle. And so I'd say that's another big focus of clients is making sure that self-care and wellness, that is in place. They have a plan for that and a routine and a schedule.
So when you say health psychology, give me more information of what that means to you.
To me, and for my practice, it just means that, not all therapists check in about their clients' physical health and ask them questions about their physical health or ask them medical questions or questions about medication. So I do that as well and feel like I have enough knowledge that I'm able to, and enough personal experience with chronic health issues that I'm able to talk to clients.
You and I are similar in things. Because I agree with you in the sense of, physical health is important. I want to check and see if they're getting their sleep, how much water are they drinking, are they getting movement, vitamin D, right? All the supplements.
Yes, that basic that basic self-care, that regular sleep, regular meals, regular exercise, that is the foundation for good mental health.
Yes.
And I feel like it's a really important piece.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't do that.
Well, it's different with couples. Yeah, it is. But I'm also thinking, because I meet with my couples, I have individual sessions with them, and that would actually be something really great to incorporate, because, that could have, obviously, that will affect their mental health and how they show up in their relationship, and so that's
when do they get angry?
Right.
Are they getting
that's one of my own things. Yeah. Well, and also what you said is typically women with ADHD struggle with doing their own self-care. And so I'm curious, where does that typically come from? Is that because we struggle with our own self-worth and so we don't feel like we need it or deserve it? Or is there...
I'm sure there's some of that there, and I'm sure it's very complicated.
Sure.
In what I've seen with clients and what I've experienced myself, because I have ADHD before, I started taking medication, is that I didn't really have the energy for good self-care. Because someone with ADHD has to work twice as hard to do things that neurotypicals do. And so, and my partner has ADHD as well, and so before he, was treated, I would see this in him as well, like, after work, you just don't have any more energy.
Right, you're done.
Yeah. You might need a nap. Where other people are like able to keep going in the evening and cook dinner and do all the things that need to be done. If you don't have the energy for self-care, that's going to be really hard, especially
and that motivation, right? Yeah, physical movement, the motivation to exercise, and maybe I can do some EMDR to change my ideas around exercise.
Yeah, you definitely could. You totally could. So I think just not having that energy, to put into those things. Yeah. I certainly have memories of wondering how, like, other women had the energy to really, like, do their hair and makeup every morning and, like, get up early to do those things.
To do it. Yeah.
And I would be lucky if I got out of bed in time to get some clothes, like, out of the hamper. Like, wear to work, and that now, looking back on those things, and you all know this, like, if you're diagnosed late, you're sort of re-examining a lot of stuff from the past.
Yes.
I see a lot of those things that I just didn't have energy to understand.
Yeah. I would take afternoon naps, and I reflect back on, like, oh my gosh, every time I would come home from school, I would take a nap. I would be exhausted. And there was a time I would take naps in my office, and I'm like, what is going on with me? And yes, I was deficient in vitamin D, and that helped, but still just needed to take those naps. And now that I'm medicated, you don't take them anymore. Yeah, there's something. Or just eating too, like the foods that you crave, and the being able to.
Should we talk about it? I think it's a really important thing to talk about, because
I do too. Because I don't think people, yes, please talk more about it, because
it's such a big issue with women with ADHD, and I say women or feminine presenting individuals because I don't typically work with males. I don't understand ADHD in males as well, but with women, binge eating, emotional eating, snacking when you're not hungry,
yes,
is a big issue.
Yeah, it was a thing. Something to do.
Big issue, and now this is my opinion. I don't have any data on this or research on this, but fidgeting is always a question on those ADHD evaluations, and a lot of women say no, I don't fidget. So then I will ask, do you eat? Do you snack when you're not hungry?
Which is a fidgeting type of behavior, isn't it?
Yeah, I
makes so much sense.
Really think that is the fidgeting in that situation for a lot of people.
Yeah. I think about that with my son Thomas. Granted, our living space is connected. It's part of the kitchen, and so he has free reign. But yeah, he will snack constantly. Yeah.
I can see that in our family.
Yeah, our family.
It was like we'd have dinner, and then it'd be an hour, and then it'd be like, okay, bring out all the snacks. You know, Grandma would bring out the
or there would just
peanuts
be nuts
and the
or
chips.
something around.
Yeah,
And
it's
I would-
like something to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'd sit around and talk. I wouldn't be hungry, but of course I would snack.
Yeah.
And, you know.
And then just you feel terrible.
Because then you're
Physically,
full and bloated,
and
yeah.
then you're mentally like, oh my god, I should not
Why?
have.
Right.
Why?
Yeah, and you think it has something to do with willpower
Yes.
and all of that, and it doesn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah.
It is that issue with dopamine, and when you need that dopamine, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
Nothing is going to
That's
stop
true.
you, whether it's food, shopping,
Mm-hmm.
substances. You are going to get that somehow.
Yeah.
And so a lot of women with ADHD have the shame around their eating or smoking or shopping or alcohol use.
Sure.
But those are coping mechanisms. And, again, if we have that issue with dopamine that's not being addressed, we're going to find that somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's often with some kind of maladaptive coping mechanism. So it's my belief now that anybody who has issues with food like that should be screened for ADHD. I'm getting to the point where I think anyone with anxiety or depression should be screened.
Yeah, a lot of the same as you, women that I work with who come in presenting with anxiety, and after further discussion going, there might be ADHD here, to the point where I'm like, am I thinking everyone has ADHD that comes in
it
to
is
see
a
me?
bit confusing.
It is,
confusing.
But there's clearly these signs. It's like, no, this is, Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
And there are some providers, who try to separate trauma and ADHD, and they'll sort of ask, is it trauma or is it ADHD? This bugs me a little bit.
Go for it.
Because I really don't think you can separate the two. I
Right.
really don't think you can do that. Yeah. Because I really believe that trauma is always going to be present in people.
Yeah, different types and makes a lot of sense.
I also noticed one thing for me was, and I didn't realize this could be a thing, or like if I would have coffee in the middle of the day, it would actually make me tired instead of like boost me up. Like my husband would come home and be like, I need a cup of coffee to get through the rest of my day. And I'd be like, if I drink a cup of coffee, I'm going to take a nap.
Right.
And I didn't realize that was a part of it or a thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't get diagnosed till this year. So
The stimulant calms the brain. It helps it become more focused. It's interesting.
It's so interesting because, I take 2 separate doses during the day. When I take my first dose, I'll sometimes take it pretty early, and then I go back to sleep. I'm taking a stimulant, and then I'm going so I can go back to sleep in the morning. And it wasn't until I started taking that second dose that I was able to keep that sort of energy going. And then the crazy thing was I started sleeping better as I started taking that second dose. And I think that, when my ADHD isn't treated, that's when my mind just starts going. And I can't, get to sleep, or I wake up in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep.
Because your mind is just like, okay, I have all these thoughts.
So that was really interesting to be like, oh, wow, if I take it twice a day, I'm going to sleep better.
Right. Yeah, it seems so.
sometimes it seems
opposite.
backwards. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. So then, with your late diagnosis, and you mentioned some chronic health issues, tell us about your healing. Or it could be another situation, but I'm curious on how you choose to take care of yourself.
Well, that's been a long journey. I started dealing with some chronic health issues in my late teens, so that's been a really long journey.
That is,
and several autoimmune issues.
Okay.
So, I couldn't really figure out what was going on, and then after I moved to St. Louis, I just, got in touch with some better providers and got some of that straightened out and got some answers to some long-term health issues. So that was really a big
Yes,
piece.
to find the right
Right
which is why you like a team
Yes.
approach. Yes.
The right providers, the right treatment. You know, I'm no longer dealing with doctors who are just like, I don't know. You know, which is a terrible feeling.
Yes, yes.
And then in terms of mental health, I struggled with anxiety and depression since my teens. And now I know that my mother probably had ADHD as well. She sadly has Alzheimer's now, and will never get the chance to be treated, you know, which is very, very sad and tragic. But I know that she had ADHD, and know now that my struggles with anxiety and depression were related to that. So I started seeking mental health services when I was in my 20s. I'm really proud of that I sort of had this. No one was telling me I needed to do that.
So it was your own.
Yeah.
You're like,
I decided
to do this.
that I got to do something.
That's
I
awesome.
didn't come from a family that would have ever sought mental health services or anything like that. So that's been a long journey as well. And then in my 40s, decided to go back to school and become a therapist, which is something that kind of always been in the back of my mind.
Okay.
But when
what did you do prior to being a therapist?
I taught at the college level for a while.
Okay.
Mainly did that. I did some corporate training.
Business.
Yeah.
Business. Okay. So different in a way. Yeah.
I taught communication studies, so I taught a lot of like interpersonal communication, on media, public speaking, stuff like that.
And so was it your time when you went to therapy, was that kind of solidifying that, oh yeah, I like this, I would want to do this?
When I was younger, I didn't think it was an exciting enough career for me. I would think about it, and I would think, oh no, that sounds kind of boring. I want something really exciting. But as I got older, and then I went through the recession, which was a very tough professional for me, and decided that I needed recession-proof and something I could do as I age and keep doing for as long as I wanted to. And so I chose to get a master's degree in counseling, and it's one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Yeah. We're happy to have you.
Yeah.
And so then your counseling was helpful. And then what do you do now to take care of yourself and to heal?
That's been tough because, you know, I was trying to do what neurotypical people do for most of my life, which was work a lot.
Oh, sure.
And play a lot on the weekends and that kind of thing, except I was working a lot and then sleeping all weekend.
Okay. And
I didn't understand how people could work, even really a 40-hour-a-week job, and have to spend the whole weekend recovering. Like, I would look at other people and be like, how do they have energy on the weekends? I don't understand this. You know? So I've learned that I cannot do the same things. That I have to approach work differently and self-care differently. So I structure my practice so that I can work less, so that I can take better care of myself. And I know that I'm really fortunate. Not everyone can do that. Right. So that I have time for physical movement every day, and I have time to eat healthy meals and prepare healthy meals, and so I have time to get. It's not easy. I have a family. I have 2 stepkids and a partner, and we're very busy, very, very busy. But I'm really committed to structuring my time so that I'm able to practice the self-care that I really need to practice. And I've stopped comparing myself to others.
Good.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and feeling sort of shame around,
I can't do it all.
Why do I, need this extra time, or why do I?
What's
why
wrong
doesn't
with
that
me?
work for me?
Right.
Yeah.
And structure, I think, is important.
Yes. I'd say it's everything for me in self-care, and I really try to work on that with my clients, because you may know, as one with ADHD, that consistency is a challenge.
So hard.
It is a challenge. So sometimes, I think it's really important. It's not just kids who need things like occupational therapy and visual aids. We need those things too.
Definitely. Yes. Yeah.
Those are very helpful for adults.
I often say flexible structure for me, because the novelty is so important for me. Like I can't say every Monday, Wednesday, Friday I'm going to get up and go for a walk,
right?
Because I won't.
I can't.
Right. And so it's figuring out what works each day so that I can make happen. So if Monday it's walking, if Tuesday it's going to the gym, if Wednesday it's doing yoga in my living room, or whatever. Not that I do all this every day, but it would have to be something. And it almost sometimes, even for me, it'd have to be something that I make the decision in the moment. Like, because I'm not always, I'm not going to be consistent. I'm not going to be good at planning it. But like giving myself that space that it's okay to be like that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
To not have that regular schedule, to not be consistent.
Do you have bookends though, as far as like wake and sleep? So then is your changes or flexibility within that time, or is that also something that changes for you? I'm just curious.
I don't know. That's probably something I'm working on. Okay. You mean like there's a window in the morning to do physical activity, or?
Well, no, I just mean like waking up at the same time and going to bed at the same time.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah,
that's a
I
really
don't.
Good question.
I don't do that.
That's a good question because
I have goals.
right.
I try to go to bed by 11 every night.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can have too much structure.
Mm-hmm.
You can be too rigid, and rigidity is something we don't want to see in our clients.
Right.
In therapy, because that's a predictor for problems as we age. Being really rigid.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't want that total lack of structure and consistency. So the middle path concept is huge. It's huge.
Yes.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's so important and it's so magical and it helps with so many things.
Yes.
And I'd say that's something I talk about a lot in my practice is that middle path concept. People with ADHD often live in extremes.
And those polar.
Sure.
And so that middle path is super important.
Yes.
Important.
Yeah, it is something that I know stagnates a lot of us who are like, well, if I can't do it all or get it all done in this amount of time, then I don't even do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly the kind of thing I hear from
Mm-hmm.
clients.
Yes.
Or they'll say something like, I'm either going 110 miles per hour or I can't get out of bed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so we work to live more in that middle of that continuum.
Yeah. That's good. Nice. Let's see. What else? What do you have coming up? What are you looking forward to? Yeah, what did you not touch base on? See our touchstones, right? Things to help us remember important things. Yeah.
Oh, you asked me about a glimmer.
Oh, we haven't done that
we
yet.
haven't
done that
yet.
Yeah,
we're
so
not
that's a
there
good
yet.
thing.
You're doing a good.
Well, do we want to do Glimmer or do we want to do this first?
Let's do Glimmer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
tell us
we
about
are at a good time
Yeah,
to do
so-
Glimmer.
Okay.
So I was thinking about that, and I think for me, and my partner too, we have a great community pool, and it's been like a mini vacation for us.
Nice.
And being able to just get out of the house in this heat and go somewhere where we're not on our phones,
Yes.
where we're not on any devices, we're just enjoying the sun and the water and getting just a break and even like pretending that you're on vacation.
Sure.
Like, oh yes. It just feels so good and I feel so refreshed after that.
How often do you go to?
Usually about once a week.
That's nice.
In this heat, you need
Right.
to.
Yeah,
Right.
it's the only way we can spend time
I know.
outside when it's
So hot.
when it's really hot.
How about you?
Me?
Yeah,
Oh.
you go.
So I was thinking,
thinking.
my daughter and I went to Union Station on Tuesday, and we did the ropes course.
Oh,
you
wow.
did?
And yeah, so I'm
You
not
go,
sure if
girl.
I'm afraid of heights or I'm afraid of falling.
Yes.
I typically think it's I'm afraid of falling, and so it was definitely a challenge for both of us. We weren't the slowest people up there, but we were close to it.
Yeah.
We did things, we challenged ourselves, it was scary, and I feel like, but there were moments in there where I was like, this is a challenge, and I'm proud of myself for being up here. Like that being a glimmer of like, I like to challenge and do things like that, and so that felt good.
Yes, that's inspiring.
Amazing. Yeah.
That is inspiring.
Well, and now I want to go back because I want to trust the harness more and just like do it. I want to like be braver.
Yes. Yes.
Because now I know what it feels like, and now I want to like do it again.
Yes.
So
That's like, I never know the names of things, like interceptive or in vivo. You would think I would know when I work with OCD, but like re-experiencing and going to that same, doing it over and over because you're those pathways.
Right.
You're changing
Sure.
those pathways around the fear. So good job.
Yeah, I know. That's
Yes. Okay, my glimmer. I haven't really thought about it. I guess. Let me think. I have been talking about going to individual counseling myself. It has been a long time since I've been, and I have finally pulled the trigger, and I had my first counseling session yesterday, and it felt really good. And so I see that as a glimmer that, you know, even us therapists can have a hard time pulling the trigger of going
Yeah.
to therapy
and finding someone.
and finding someone. It is hard.
It is
And
hard.
finding time.
Yes,
too.
and
Yeah.
finding time too, yes. So that is a glimmer. I'm proud of myself that I have done that, and proud of myself of how I opened up in that session. So, yeah,
Yay.
some
Also
glimmers.
inspiring. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, and so now, are we ready? We do a question.
Okay.
A rando
We have no
question.
idea. We have no idea what
Yes.
they are. You
Okay.
pick
We
one,
don't even know what they
Right.
are because it was a.
and we all answer it.
It
So
was
you're
a-
not alone.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yes. Let's see.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
What's the best concert you've ever been to?
Ooh,
This is gonna be
mine's
embarrassing.
easy.
Oh no! Yay!
Oh,
That's
embarrassing.
right.
Oh,
Yeah.
let me think. I have to think.
Best concert. I mean, because there's a
Oh.
lot of good musicians,
Oh.
but I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite band is Wilco.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
And so I'm going to say I saw Wilco in Oklahoma City several years ago. And they were fantastic. I am a huge fan of Jeff Tweedy's
Yeah.
band. And I'm a musician and I'm listening to his book, How to Write One Song,
Oh,
right now,
neat.
which is an incredible.
Is it actually
Incredible
teaching
book.
you how
Yes.
to write a song? Okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
and I've written some songs this summer, and that book has helped
Oh, I want to
tremendously.
hear.
He's
Are you
just
gonna have a
awesome.
concert?
He's amazing. He's amazing.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
My daughter is jumping into that. She has a notebook now that is deemed her songwriting notebook.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
exciting.
interesting. Yeah. We might have to
Okay.
invite you over to share your wisdom.
Sounds good.
Oh yeah. Okay. So mine is. So I love Dave Matthews Band and Dave Matthews, and so last year I talked some friends and family into going out to the Gorge, which is in Washington State, and it is just this beautiful place to see a concert. There's a gorge, so there's water and the sun sets, and that's the backdrop. And so, yeah, last year I got to go see Dave Matthews perform, and I cried. It was such a moment. I loved all of it.
He's
It was great.
amazing.
He is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to be invited on that. So that was definitely a wonderful concert experience.
Glad you went.
Yeah, it was so fun. Walking over that edge and just it opening, like that was
Yeah.
really cool.
And I've talked to some people. One of the owners of Urban Matter, she lived out there. That was like where she grew up. So those were like that was like her riverport. That was her concert.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
oh,
Wow.
there's no. How do you can't. Well,
That's so cool.
yeah. So how about you?
So a different one than that, one that popped into my head was in Lawrence, Kansas. In college, seeing Weezer at I forget what was the name of that venue. It's still there.
Mm-hmm.
The I don't remember the name.
Okay,
Anyway,
we'll find out.
but it was great because I was standing like it was packed and I was standing on a step. And so I was right in line with the stage, and they had their big W lit up, and it was just such a fun concert, and I loved it. And of course, I love Weezer, and so I knew all the songs and sang along, and it was good.
Awesome. I didn't know you liked Weezer.
Oh, Yeah, they used to be my favorite band.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. I was at a college party, and I think I got duped because I didn't know Weezer at the time. I guess they were around then, but this guy's like, "Oh yeah, I'm part of the band Weezer," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know them." And
Were they really? Was he really?
No, he wasn't. He
I
was
would've been
just
jealous.
trying to like get a smooch or something.
Oh, did he?
No, he did good.
Well, okay, and then kind of a last piece is, do you have anything to promote? Do you have anything coming up or available sessions?
Yes.
Or
Any like courses or anything like that?
Yeah, so on my website I have a workbook called Thriving with ADHD Diagnosis. And it's just a short little printable PDF, but it's kind of like steps to take if you have a new ADHD diagnosis, if you have a late ADHD diagnosis, if you think you might have ADHD and you're not sure what to do, what the next step is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great resource.
Okay. Oh, great. Awesome. Good. So go to your website, which is
evolvewithedie.com.
okay, and get that PDF.
yay!
Awesome.
Awesome. Well,
Okay.
thank you
Yeah,
so much.
Thank you. Thank you very
It's great
much
to
for
have
having
you.
me. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
Yay!
All right. Well,
Giggles and glimmers.
Giggles and glimmers.
Oh wait, do we have anything to promote? We don't have anything
No.
right now.
No, not right now.
We're good.
Just
Follow, like, share.
yes, all those things.
Bye. Bye.
All right.
Nailed it.
Yes.
47 minutes.
Awesome. How do I end?